$1. Some restrictions apply. Find a club near you at CaliforniaFamilyFitness.com.
This week at Macy's, get an extra 20% off with your coupon or Macy's card. That's on top of already great deals, like 20 to 60% off updates for every room, now during the big home sale. And get a jump on back to school with 20 to 60% off looks you'll wear on repeat, now at Macy's. And Macy's Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. Savings off sale and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
Why let those dishes pile up? Don't just spray clean some super fast. Just spray like the rinse. Baby's taking a nap. Clean those bottles in a snap. Just spray like the rinse. Dawn dish spray, it's a spray for your dishes. Smoothie mess in a blender. Clean it easy, clean it bad. Just spray like the rinse. Don't power wash dish spray. How's it working, guys? Just spray like the rinse.
Narrow it to all those summer fun seekers who got caught without sunscreen. For you, Walgreens has the essentials to keep your summer going, with delivery in as little as 1 hour. Restrictions apply. See Walgreens.com for details.
Save now on Pro Essentials with Lowe's Pro Summer Savings. Save on select appliance special values. Plus, save an additional $50 when you buy 2 or more appliances, each price $396 or more. You'll also find savings on tools and more throughout the store. At Lowe's, the new home for pros. Must ask cashier to apply discount in store. Online must use promo code. Can't be combined with any other discounts. See Lowe's.com for exclusions and terms. Valid 7/15 through 8/4. U.S. only.
Homes share power, but when we try to stay cool in a heat wave, our supply is pushed to the limit. But we can all stay up and running with Flex Alerts. From farmers to football fans to pharmacists, we can all sign up for Flex Alert reminders. They notify us when to use less energy if our power supply is stretched. And energy used before 4 p.m. is clean solar energy that we can all use guilt-free. Let's flex our power to save our power. Visit saveourpower.org to learn more.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And the good old boys across the country, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys across the country, in the land of the free and the home of the brave and the beautiful. It is beautiful July. It is actually the 30th, 2021. Ground of the Porches, bonjour. It's all fair and love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive, you'll tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C sometimes and sometimes not. And I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podchaser, Spreaker. There's so many apps. Podcast Addict is all fair and level more. On television, you can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon and Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing. It's a happy Friday, but I'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And you can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. It's all fair and level. We're also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV of the San Francisco Giants, the first place San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king Barry Bonds. And when you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping to put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it, Nike's doing it, car dealerships are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, to go to BigCSports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country. on the wholesale side. When you need a loan, don't just be sure, be rocket sure. It's all fair and Leavenworth, proud sponsors of the Big C Sports Podcast. Also, thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, Effect TV, and Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. We have a great day today. We have some information on the Olympics. We also have some talk about college football, some NFL football. I'm also going to have a great guest on. He's kind of an encyclopedia when it comes to sports. His name is Dave Braves. He's the founder of Web City Press and also Sports Time Machine published in San Francisco. We'll take what's called the Big C pause. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Today is a beautiful happy Friday. I remember when I was a young man, I used to watch this show called It's a Beautiful Day, It's a Beautiful Day, It's a Beautiful Day in the neighborhood. I wouldn't want to be my neighbor anyway. I have my neighbor. He's a good old boy, a neighbor of California. His name is Dave Braves. He's the founder of Web City Press in California, and he's been around a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Knows a lot about a lot of things. And I call it Dave. How you doing today? Thanks for being on the show.
You're doing good, Charlton.
Well, you sound good, Dave. It's all fair in Leavenworth. There's a lot of stuff I want to just pick your brain on. You know it's a great time of year. We just finished crowning the Milwaukee Bucks as the NBA champions. Giannis Antetokounmpo, that guy's amazing. And Milwaukee did their thing, beating the Phoenix Suns. We're now in the heat of Major League Baseball. We're making that run for October, who's going to be the World Series champion. We even have the Olympics going on over in Japan, so it's a great time of year for the sports world, and then college football is also kicking up too. So Dave, tell us about what is Web City Press, when did it start, and how did you make it happen? Go right ahead, sir.
Well, we got into it back in the early days of the web, back in 1994, when the web kind of just happened right there, and we decided, okay, that's time to get into this. I've been in the media business for about 30 years before that, and I said, okay, this is it, let's go.
Yep.
We got Web City Press going, and so we got into digital marketing and all that. So we do the whole thing with digital marketing, production, streaming, this and that, all of it, the whole thing. So been doing it for 27 years.
Wow, that's a good longevity at it, Dave. So obviously, you know a lot about media. Media is a changing thing. Podcast is replacing cable television. It seems a lot of people are trying to get their information from podcasting now, even much more than radio. But also, I know you started Web City Press, but I believe you also had some work going on with Sports Time Machine. That was actually published out of San Francisco back in the day, Dave.
Yeah, that was back in the early 70s. I was always been interested in, sports history. So,
yeah.
I decided in early 70s, living up there in the Bay and working for a publishing company, decided to go ahead and try to do a column and syndicate it, and it was called the Sports Time Machine, where we just capsulized different major events in sports history and kind of put it into a present tense presentation.
Yeah.
And eventually we got it syndicated. I syndicated out to a lot of papers, San Rafael, San Mateo Times, around the country, Toledo Blade, everywhere.
Okay.
About 40 papers. And we did that, and then the thing became a book.
Wow.
We got a book, and it sold in airports around the country. So that was my sports writing stage in my life right there. So it was interesting. I got a lot of research in at that time, and it was got a little bit of a handle on how things happened before I was born.
Yeah. Well, it's now, like with the technology, Dave, the young kids, my son, he gives me a lot of stats on sports. I'll ask him a question. He'll say, Dad, just open your phone and Google it. So I started using Googling a long time ago. But the young kids, we didn't even have Google when we were growing up, Dave. Your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. No, in the old days, you had to go down and get microfiche off the library and try to search out newspapers and figure out what happened. It was no Google.
Yeah.
That was way before Google. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, did that, and that was interesting time right there.
Now, I know you followed a lot of sports in California. I mean, you've seen guys like the late Frank Griffith. You say, there's a lot of other players that you've seen there's all this talk about college football. I know you told me about one of the better running backs you've seen. I think it was Archie Griffin from back in the day out of Ohio State. That was, that great team that came out from the Midwest. And they were always winning games with Archie Griffin, 2-time Heisman Trophy winner under Woody Hayes. But give me your thoughts on seeing some of the great college athletes over the years. Which one you've been most impressed by? And then I want to ask you about this expansion in college football.
Well, there's a lot of them, there's a whole list of people. If anybody want to go through a list, it'd take forever because there's been a lot of great college football players. I was lucky enough to actually see a great game in L.A. back in 1951, 70 years ago.
Wow, wow.
It was in L.A. I was a little kid, and my dad had, after the war, my dad had worked in the shipyards in Richmond, and he had a little bit of, you can make a little bit of money in the shipyards there, and he came back, and he was a contractor. So we were fortunate to be able to go down from Fresno at that moment in time, 1951, drove down, and we watched the USC-Stanford game.
Oh, really?
And that was considered, it was a great game, one of the great games ever played in the Coliseum.
Wow.
And that's documented on, there's a site called Stanford 247, Cardinal 247.
Okay.
And they have an article that was written in 1951 about the game. They considered it one of the great games in history at that time.
Wow.
And there's been a lot of great college games.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the game that Bob Mathias, who was a great Olympic athlete,
That's
he was
right.
from Tulare, not too far from Fresno.
Okay.
And he'd gone to the Olympics in 52 and 48. Actually went to the Olympics and won the decathlon in 1948.
Yep.
And then he did the same thing in Helsinki in 52. He's a great athlete. Anyway, he was playing football for Stanford, and Frank Gifford was playing for USC.
Wow.
And they were both, trying to go to the Rose Bowl that year. And so he went down there. The Rose Bowl was packed. Not the Rose Bowl, Coliseum was packed. And Gifford kicked off Mathias, and after USC scored, Mathias went 96 yards right down the sideline, right in front of me. I saw him do the thing.
Yep.
And Gifford got blocked out the last second, missed him, and Stanford scored. Stanford went to Rose Bowl, USC didn't, and I think that probably is something Gifford probably, because, you grow up in Southern California like he did, or at least Bakersfield's kind of part of Southern California, it's just north. He probably wanted to go to the Rose Bowl bad, and he never got there.
Yeah.
Mathias did. And Stanford ended. Anyway, that was a great game. But I've seen other games that were pretty good, too. There's another game in the Coliseum that actually was maybe as good as that game. That was the Fresno State USC game when Reggie Bush had 500 yards by himself that game. And that was an unbelievable game there. I mean, that in Fresno State, they weren't they weren't supposed to be able to take it to USC, and they did. They went right down the wire.
That was Pete Carroll was coaching that team, and then who was the coach for Fresno State at that time? I mean, anyone? Pat Hill, the great Pat Hill, was coach for Fresno State, and I think they had a lot of good players. That game was actually 50-42, and then USC went on and I won't say they got robbed, but something about old Pete Carroll. He was also on the staff at UOP back in the day. But old Pete Carroll, he had the Heisman Trophy winner, Reggie Bush, on the sideline on 3rd and 4th down. It was like 3rd and 2, and then 4th and 1. And the guy who won the Heisman Trophy, he was on the sideline, Dave. Your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I know. No, that was a great game. But to give you an idea of what the difference is between 1951 and 2001, or whenever that game was, the Reggie Bush game,
2005, actually. 2005.
When that game ended, the LA game in 1951, Gifford and Mathias took the kickoff back and scored and that whole thing.
Yep.
Then that night, we went to Whittier Stadium to watch Fresno State play Whittier.
Right.
My dad, we're Fresno people. Right? So we go out to see them play Whittier.
Yeah.
George Allen was the coach of the Whittier team, and there must have been 20 people at the game, maybe.
Wow.
So we went from 96,000 people in the Coliseum down to at least 20 people on the Fresno State side.
Yeah.
And that was a whole big difference there. But then the next time, you go back, Fresno State got big time. All of a sudden over the next 50 years, and they ended up playing SC.
Yeah.
And UCLA. I think they're going to play UCLA in a couple weeks right now.
Yeah, they're going to play UCLA. Yeah, down the Rose Bowl. David Carr and Derek Carr played at Fresno State, and then he, down there for the Las Vegas Raiders now. But I remember the California Raisin Bowl. I think it was Jeff Tedford. He was a quarterback, and I remember there was a guy by the name of Henry Ellert and Stephon Pace that went on to play in the NFL, and that was the inaugural California Raisin Bowl. They played, I believe, Bowling Green out of the MAC conference.
Yeah. They played the MAC. Yeah, they played the Midwest Conference. That was how they tried to put that together. The first Raisin Bowl I was aware was back in 1940s. Texas Tech came out and played San Jose State. I listened on the radio as a kid. And they tried to put it together. That Raisin Bowl was really one of the first bowls, other than the big bowls, to try to make a run at it, but it didn't happen. It happened. It didn't happen in the 40s and 50s. Then they tried to put it together back in the 80s, and almost turned the corner, but they didn't quite keep it together. So, they try, they make runs at it, but that takes, some of those things take time. It takes a while to happen.
It does, and there's been a lot of changes in college football. You go back like the historians. But I want to ask your thoughts, because you've seen all the expansions in college football from the days of USC and Ohio State when they always met at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, and then the games of USC, Notre Dame, they've always played a lot like Alabama plays Auburn every year, and Georgia plays Florida. Penn State used to play, Pitt. Give me your thoughts, Dave, on the new thing that's happening in college sports right now in college football. They're all trying to join these super conferences. I think Texas and Oklahoma, I think they're making a mistake because they're king of the mountain right now in the Big 12. And now they're going to join the SEC. They're not going to get the favoritism from the officiating. They're not going to knock off Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and LSU and Florida. So they're going from teams that compete for first and second place to maybe fifth and sixth place. Give me your thoughts on that, Dave.
Well, I think that they might be making a pretty bad move there, because they are they're the top.
They're the top right now.
Echelon in that league they're already in. They've been there for decades.
Yeah.
A long time.
Yeah.
And they're not going to jump in there and all of a sudden here we go, we can take on Alabama off and LSU and knock them off that easy. They can play them, and they may beat them here and there, and and they probably could come in with a fairly good record, but they're not going to be every year 11 wins, that kind of thing. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think. But Oklahoma has had a powerhouse program there for a long time.
They won 57 in a row, I think, with a good coach back in the day. I think 57 in a row, had an NFL quarterback with them.
Well, they had a guy that was that 57 in a row was in the 50s, and in fact, I played against that guy in Germany, Dave Baker.
Oh, really?
He was Dave Baker was a quarterback for Oklahoma when Wilkinson had that team down there. They won 57 straight. They finally lost, and he ended up going to the 49ers as a DB for a year or so, and I ended up playing him in 1961, about 70 years ago in Germany.
Wow, that is amazing.
He played for the 4th Armored Division, and they had 10 teams over there, and he was a good quarterback.
That is absolutely amazing. I'm going to take a quick pause, Dave. I want to come back and ask you about that military experience over in Europe, because it would be great if they added maybe football to the Olympics. They're adding everything else. This is Big C Sports Podcast. You can hear us all over the world on the Big C Sports Podcast with iHeartRadio Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. It's all over the world, and I really do appreciate the growth with Big C Sports. We're talking to Dave Brace, the founder of Web City Press, also wrote a book. He started with Sports Time Machine, published out of San Francisco, and just a historian when it comes to football. You heard his thoughts on the college football expansion. I even think there's talk of Pac-12 now. The commissioner who comes out of the hold your seat, Dave, the gaming industry. Okay, you're gonna have that guy around your college kids when we have this name, image, and likeness now. But the thought on college expansion, are you in favor of college expansion, or do you still like the old regional setups that we used to have, Dave?
No, I think the regional setup's pretty good. I mean, these teams have been playing each other in these regions for a long time, and the rivalries are kind of embedded into the whole situation. I mean, you take this conference at San Jose State and Fresno State and Boise and San Diego State. They've been playing each other for over 100 years. Yeah. So I mean, it's a long time.
Yeah, it really has.
I mean, some of them have been playing that long against each other, but the San Diego State's a rival with Fresno State. Fresno State's been a rival with San Jose State, and both of those are big-time rivalries. Yeah. They've been there for a long time. San Jose State and Fresno State in particular, except, San Diego State's always been there. It's a big game. Fresno State. Now Boise is saying, well, they want to leave. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I don't know. That may be a good move, but, I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, they are kind of like, they're kind of up there in the Mountain West area. They're real, up in that area of the pocket up there. But, the teams that are really the strengths in this division of this MAC, or not the MAC, but the Mountain West is the California schools. Yeah. San Jose State, San Diego State, Fresno State, and Boise kind of represents that northwest zone.
Yeah.
And they may go off and go somewhere, and that's fine. But this league here will still be okay. But
They're going to be okay.
That's all I'm saying.
All going to be okay. So let me ask you.
They're a good team. They've always been tough. I'm not knocking their ability to play, but if they leave, then that's fine. Then they'll figure out a way to make this league here work in the future. San Diego's building a brand new stadium, the Aztecs down there.
Yeah, it's a lot of money poured into college football. But I want to, based on the spirit of the Olympics, you're also a veteran. Give me your thoughts and tell our audience, you actually played in Europe. You played in the military. I think you said, during the war, there's like 500,000 troops. I think they had 10 teams that were part of this football that was played over in Europe. Give me your thoughts and tell us about that experience. What was that like, Dave?
Well, it was during the Cold War. I mean, a lot of people, maybe I have to say what the Cold War was, because a lot of people might not know, but the Cold War was when, the United States and Russia, Soviet Union, were kind of at each other's throats, to a certain extent. We were, we had the NATO, and they had their countries that they were controlling, and so there was a lot of troops in Europe at that time.
Yeah.
In the Berlin crisis of 1961 actually happened just about this time in 1961.
Yeah.
It was in August. And, they put the wall up. That was the Berlin Wall, the famous Berlin Wall.
Wow.
So, in fact, I played a game in Berlin the week after the wall was going up. We're down by the wall, and we had a game there, and, it was kind of an interesting time to be there.
Yeah.
But we had 10 teams in Europe at that time. We had 10 football teams and 500,000 troops.
Wow.
So you figure 50,000 guys could feed into any of those teams, and some of those generals had spies up there at the place where the troop ships would come in, waiting to find them, pull them off. The ships would come in from New York, from Brooklyn, into Bremerhaven, Germany, and they have guys there kind of trying to pick them off and get them down to their divisions. At least that was the legend. I don't know for sure, but I think it happened,
Yeah.
So anyway, there was 10 teams, and I played on the team. It's kind of in the middle. In fact, 7th Corps was in Stuttgart, but they had some pretty good football teams over there. Guys that had been in the pros, guys was going to go to the pros. Roy Shivers played for the 24th Infantry Division.
Yes.
He was running back for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he was good. He was very good, and a lot of guys like that in that league.
Yeah.
I said, Baker. Anyway, that was the way we did 10 games a season. They were on AFN radio. It was a big deal over there. We were on the radio on AFN, Armed Forces Network, and people came to games. We had Germans coming to the games. That's kind of where the interest in football, American football, started, was with those teams over there, before and after I was there, but a lot of years of American football being played in Germany.
Yeah.
So when the NFL went in there, they decided to put those teams into where they're London and here and there, and then Frankfurt had a team, I know that.
Yeah.
And if I was them, I would have put the team a little bit south of there, though, because they went into Frankfurt, which was the north end.
Yep.
And they had, a lot of, it was not north end of the middle of Germany, southern Germany, but Stuttgart would have been a good location, too.
Well, I tell you what, Dave. Whether the Olympics is amazing. We have the NBA players playing now. There was a time the amateurs only wanted to do it. We don't have it for baseball to have the major league players because, of course, the Summer Olympics are happening at the time that baseball's in full swing. I don't know if we'll ever get football at the professional level in the Olympics together. It's just too much to deal with and put things together. But I do appreciate everything that's going on in sports. As a guy that's been around from it seems like the beginning of time when sports really grew big, and I love doing Big C Sports Podcasts. Any advice you could give to young people out there, Dave, that want to get started? I mean, I love doing our shows 5 days a week all over the world. Any advice you can share, not only with myself, but with other young people that are thinking they want to take a stab at this business, Dave?
It's this business you're in, and the business we're in?
Yeah.
You're in it a little bit deeper than I am in the media side with your show, but I'm in the media also. I've been in that same realm before, but I think the best thing is to try to find a way to get out there and let somebody know what you're doing.
Yeah.
It takes a while. You have to have some experience. You have to figure out a way to get where the action is.
Yeah.
I tried to get into broadcasting of football here in Fresno when Sweeney was coaching the Fresno State team.
Yeah, Jim Sweeney.
And I got into it by selling airtime.
Yeah.
I got some guy that had the broadcast rights to Fresno State football in 76. He needed to have the airtime, so he couldn't. So I got in a little room in Fresno, and I called every ad agency in the United States for him to try to get enough people to say, hey, we're going to sponsor Fresno State football.
Yeah.
And most of them didn't know where Fresno State football was. They didn't know where Fresno was, half of them. But, that was just
they
so I had
couldn't
to tell
Google
them,
it.
they got a good team.
Yeah.
They weren't playing in Bulldog Stadium yet. They were playing a place called Blackstone called Ratcliffe Stadium. So it was a tough sell.
Yeah.
But I finally got a couple big clients to go. And that kept the games on the air because it takes money to produce them.
Yeah.
It took dollars to produce them. So that's how I got in. And then I did a little bit of play-by-play after that. And, I didn't quite ever get to where you're at because you've got a big show out listening to people all over the world. And I didn't get that far. But I did play-by-play. And I think, but you got to get, I did some things for ESPN. I produced some things for ESPN in early days of ESPN, not recently, but way back when they were first starting, they needed events.
Yeah.
They didn't have any West. They were mainly an East Coast company at that time, so they needed. So I put together some events for them out here, on the West Coast, and that was an interesting phase.
Yeah, I'm sure it was interesting, especially as how competitive this has grown. Well, Dave, I do want to tell you I appreciate your time. I love talking sports with you. I learned a lot of good things. Without giving out a guy's name, I hope your stomach is okay from that running back from Merced that was trying to put a tattoo on you before tattoos became popular, if that makes sense. It's all fair.
I can mention him. I can mention him if you don't mind me mentioning him.
Yeah, go right
One of the
ahead.
great players that came out of the Valley, great running back.
Yeah.
That ever came out of the San Joaquin Valley.
Yeah. I know you still have that tattoo.
Lloyd Winston.
Yep.
Merced Bears running back. He got me good when I was real good.
They think
he
guys
was
are
the best running back they ever had in that part of the state.
Yeah, they think guys are tatted up now. They should have seen that tattoo he left on your chest. And you're a pretty good sized guy, so you know he was running with a lot of force. In fact, there's a number 2 draft pick came out of Merced last night in the NBA draft. We were covering that over the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. But Dave, I appreciate you very much being on. And before I go back to the Big C pause, I just want to tell you, with Web City Press, you're doing a lot of great work. You're part of Sports Time Machine, published in San Francisco. The college football expansion, got your thoughts on that. But to have the experience of a military veteran being part of the Big C Sports podcast, a guy who actually played in United States military uniform, it's just an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. I wish you and your family nothing but the best, and hopefully we'll see you down the road, Dave. You take care, okay, my friend?
All right.
That's the great
Thank
Dave
you, Charlton.
Press. You are welcome.
Great talking to you.
You are welcome, sir, anytime. That's the great Dave Braze, founder of Web City Press in California. He's an encyclopedia of knowledge, and he's also a veteran, and I really appreciate that. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll take the Big C pause, and I'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a television. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. I wanted to thank Dave Braze for coming on as an expert guest for Big C Sports Podcast. He's the founder of Web City Press, goes way back in the day, covering the world of sports, actually played football while he was in the war, in the military, as we always pay homage to our military veterans. Really appreciate that. So thank you again, Dave Braze, as one of the best sports minds in the universe. All fair and level war. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. And when we come back, I'm going to talk more about last night in the NBA draft from the Barclays Center. It was live. We came to you live with Big C Sports from Barclays Center with DC Livers, part of the Black Sports Network. She's amazing, absolutely fabulous, and she was there live talking to Big C Sports. It's all fair and level war. We'll also have more of an update on the Olympic count from Tokyo, Japan. It's all fair and level war in the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. All's fair in love and war. I really do appreciate what we're doing with Big C Sports. We go unscripted, no teleprompter, no producer in my ear, no one having a script in my ear telling me what to say, and it's impromptu. And I just challenge all the sponsors out there that are paying money for shows, and some guys are making several $1 million, and their teleprompter goes down and the show goes off. Or when they are on vacation, they're not there earning the money. I don't take days off. I don't sleep. I even work in my sleep. It's all fair in love and war. I absolutely love what I do, and I thank God for all the things. The land that thou seest will I give you. I really appreciate that. I'm always trying to inspire young people to get your stick together, the great TDJs. Get your stick together and start doing what you were called to do, and stop doing what you're not called to do. A lot of people spending a lot of time working for other people. You water another man's garden, and when it's time to reap the harvest, they say, you can't have that harvest. That's my harvest. And you go, wait a minute, but I've been harvesting and watering your garden for years. What do you mean I can't have the harvest? He said, all those years you spent watering my garden, you should have been watering your own. It's all fair and love and work. Start watering your garden. Be the boss of something. Last year's is amazing. Everybody fought through COVID. And then this year, we're getting back on the grind. Everybody's trying to get back on the grind in the sports universe. I'll do my best with Big C Sports. Last time we thought about this, it was just last night. The NBA Top 10 draft summary. First 3 picks went as expected. And then the Toronto Raptors, they surprised a lot of people by not going with Jalen Suggs, who had to wait until the 5th pick to be drafted. We saw a few international players go in the top 10 as well, as Australian Josh Giddey, and then Jonathan Kingman, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Franz Wagner from Germany. But I'm going to just run down Big C's thoughts on the top 10 of the NBA draft. And all of you guys, do you believe in miracles? The great Al Michaels. Yes, you believe in miracles. You had your miracles come true last night, called the NBA draft. You heard your name called. Congratulations. Number 1, the first pick, Kate Cunningham to the Detroit Pistons. That good boy gets the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. You are a millionaire. There's a show back in the day called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I think the coach, Jim Harbaugh, he and his brother, their father, growing up, they had a saying called Who's Got It Better Than Us? Big C Sports. And it's all fair and love and war. Number 2 in the pick, Jalen Green goes to the Houston Rockets. Jalen Green actually is from California, Central California, went to Merced. It's actually an Air Force base called Castle Air Force Base. They actually have a museum there now, and that's in the central part of California, just north of Fresno. Also, congratulations to Jalen Green. You deserve the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. Number 3 in the NBA draft. You want to be a millionaire? You are a millionaire. The great Evan Mobley to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland, this is for you. We've heard that before with the great LeBron James. All's fair and love and war. Number 4, you became a millionaire last night. All your dreams came true. And it's almost like the great Disney. And I want to thank again Dariah Matthews, who came on our show from Disney Corporation. When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. Okay, I hope I didn't blow out anybody's speakerphone. Got to sound a lot better when I was doing it in the shower. But you can't do the Big C Sports podcast for the shower, so I apologize to any speakers that had blown out from my singing. It's all fair and love and war. But the great, when you think about it, Scotty Barnes to Toronto Raptors, that good boy going outside of the United States to make his dreams come true. You deserve the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. And word has it that a raptor might be part of the exotic meats. It's all fair and love and war. I really appreciate these young men walking across the stage. And for the young men, if you saw number 5, Jalen Suggs to the Orlando Magic, congratulations. You are now a millionaire, and you deserve the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. And I really want to say to a lot of the young men, there were so many guys that were sharply dressed. I mean, I saw no one sagging. No one got up there with their belt hanging under their buttocks, and I know that's a fashion statement for a lot of guys. But for the grandparents and the parents that saw their kids, I'm sure they were really proud to see the class and the dignity. They dressed like they were trying to appease the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's all fair and love and war, or John Lewis, or anybody else that's walked around with a lot of class. And I hope they can be a shining example for a lot of other men who think it's okay to walk around with the top of their pants down on their knees. It's all fair in love and war. And also, another draft pick, number 6, is Josh Giddey to Oklahoma City on-time Thunder, drafted by the Thunder, Oklahoma City. You deserve the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. You are now an NBA millionaire. May you have a long and prosperous career, all fair and level war. Number 7, we have Jonathan Kimba out of the Golden State Warriors. You are a millionaire. You deserve the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, all fair and level war. The Golden State Warriors is like the rich keep getting richer over there in Silicon Valley. Also, another great player, I believe in Disney. You know, Walt Disney's amazing. Again, I thank Zariah for coming on to the show earlier this week on Big C Sports Podcast. But if you think about this, Franz Wagner to the Orlando Magic, you become a millionaire, and you deserve the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and yes, it does come with exotic meats, making your dreams come true in the beautiful city of Orlando, Florida. It's a little bit humid, but it's all fair and level war. Number 9, Davion Mitchell from the Sacramento Kings. You become a millionaire. Make your dreams come true. You deserve the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. Wishing you nothing but the best as you try to get the Sacramento Kings back into the playoffs. Yeah, playoffs. Playoffs is all fair and level war. Don't laugh. They've been out of the playoffs for a long time. This is not the team that had Chris Webber and Vlade Divac and Doug Christie and Mike Bibby and all them good old boys paging, but they have the making of a team that can make a run at the playoffs in Northern California. Number 10, Zaire Williams to the New Orleans Pelicans, traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. You are a millionaire. Congratulations. You deserve the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. I wish all of you nothing but the best, and I really want to thank the great DC Lyra. She was doing it live for Big C Sports, coming to us from the Black Sports Network, and she's the founder and CEO, and I really appreciate it as you were talking on the Big C Sports podcast. You know, all the NBA stars, all the NBA talent, and the whole NBA, rumor has it, they're following Big C Sports. It's all fair and level more. We just want to find a way to edify people and help people understand. Last night, a lot of dreams came true, and I really wish the best for all of the players that are there in New York or Brooklyn. You know, Brooklyn in the house. The great Spike Lee, he was also there, jumping up and down. The great Spike Lee, I was telling my son, you got to watch the movie He Got Game. This press all over the place. You can hear the typewriters going off. And young people are like, what's a typewriter? Well, typewriters are what people used before they had Google it on the internet. I was talking to a friend of mine, Dave Brace, today about how he covered sports back in the 1960s and in the 1950s. And he said he had to go to the library and actually read. And now kids can pull stuff up on the internet. And they ask, well, how do you guys graduate college? You have to do all that reading, all fair. 11 war. But congratulations to you young players that just became millionaires in the world of the NBA. And may you make all of your dreams come true. Really appreciate that. I also want to just touch on something, because Big C Sports is very proud to say that we are heard all over the world. In fact, heard all over the universe. Really appreciate that with all of our sponsors and our outlets that are really using our programs for distribution. Really appreciate that. Still looking for that $6 billion. All fair and level war. Lead Majors movie Victory by Submission was on with just Claude Dupoussin just earlier this week, and he was a $6 million man. Want to be the $6 billion man. All fair in love and war. I want to just congratulate President Barack Obama. President Barack Obama joins NBA Africa as a new minority owner. Former President Barack Obama has joined Africa as a strategic partner and minority owner. The league announced that earlier this week. It's called NBA Africa, where they can also wish upon a star. The league's business in Africa, including Basketball Africa League, which is BAL, which held its inaugural season in May, and Junior NBA Basketball Without Borders is BWB Africa, and NBA Academy of Africa. That's a really good push going back to the continent where most of the players in the NBA hailed from. In fact, all life came from Africa, according to Dr. Leakey and Gregor Mendo. People should Google that. That should be part of your American citizenship when they're asking you things about America. But the NBA has always been a great ambassador for the United States, using the game to create a deeper connection around the world. and in fact around the universe, the sports universe, when you think about it. And in Africa, basketball has the power to promote opportunities and promote wellness and equality and empowerment across the continent. President Obama said by investing in communities promoting gender equality and cultivating the love of the game of basketball, that he believes the NBA Africa can make a difference for so many young people. And I really appreciate what President Obama did. President Obama will have a minority equity stake in the new venture, which over time he intends to use to fund the Obama Foundation youth and leadership programs across Africa. And Big C Sports is very proud to announce what President Barack Obama was doing and is doing with NBA Africa. It's all fair in love and war. You got wings, you got to believe. Whether you believe it or not, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. You got to think about it every night and day. You got to spread your wings and fly away. You got to believe you can soar. You got to see yourself running through that open door. Yes, you got to believe you can fly, because eagles fly high so they don't get caught down with the chickens getting plucked for dinner. If you believe you're an eagle in life and you have things coming at you and people plucking you out of that garden, out of that backyard, that barn, and they're trying to put you on the dinner table, if you're an eagle, what are you doing down there with the chickens? You're supposed to be up flying far in the sky, fly higher than a chicken can fly. A lot of chickens are bottom feeders, and so they end up deep fried or baked or broiled. But eagles are supposed to fly high. If you're going through problems in your life, sometimes you just got to fly a little bit higher. It's all fair and level, where I do believe I can fly. And when it comes to flying, I love how the game of baseball, the pitch hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run. Say hello to my little friend. The girls love the long ball, and men love to hit deep. It's all fair and level, where I love this game called baseball. There's so many great things going on in the game of baseball, and some major news happened, with the trade deadline. The Los Angeles Dodgers. Let me back up. I'm speeding down the 405. Let me hit the brakes. I want to get up at Shivers, where the home of the defending Los Angeles Dodgers are. The first team in baseball history, Major League Baseball history, to have 4 Cy Young athletes on the team at the same time. Max Scherzer came over from the National. He has a World Series championship. The great Curtin Kershaw, World Series championship. Trevor Bauer still dealing with his legal issues, and he should, because no one should be dealt with the way women have to dealing with that. David Price. The Dodgers have a $281 million payroll, and last I hear, it's not just paid with Bitcoin. Okay, they're paying people, real mucho dinero. It's all fair and level, where by $281 million payroll for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the press is going wild. In fact, a lot of people are using typewriters, and Dave, I'm saying I would do that for you, adding in the typewriter effect, because sometimes kids don't understand, like, what's a typewriter? How did you guys write stories without a typewriter? It's all, without Google. It's all fair and level, war. But not so fast, my friend. Just as people think that the Dodgers are pulling away from everybody, the San Francisco Giants against Chris Bryant, who has 18 home runs and 51 RBIs from the Chicago Cubs. And also the Giants, they lead the Dodgers by 3 games. That's important. They lead them by 3 games, and this good boy is good at third base. He's also good at the outfield, and he's looking to make the Giants even stronger as they took care of the defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. It's all fair and level, war. So today's game, it is a beautiful Friday. It is July the 30th, 2021. Today's games in Major League Baseball, you have the Kansas City, they're at Toronto. Baltimore, they're at Detroit. I'm going to use my baseball voice if I can. Boston at Tampa Bay. You have the New York Yankees, they're at Miami. And then you have the Seattle, they're at Texas, down in Texas. Bring your own Gatorade if you understand that. And Gatorade, sometimes the good old boys, they put different things in your cup if you trust them in Texas enough. Also, the Cleveland is at the Chicago White Sox. The great Tony La Russa is all fair in love and war. Minnesota, they're at St. Louis, the city by the arch, the gateway to the west. The Oakland A's out of Northern California, they're down in Southern California to take on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And word has it, they were going to go by Disneyland to see Mickey Mouse, but they were saying that they found more entertainment, just as much entertainment, watching the great Shohei Ohtani go yard. But I still like Mickey Mouse because he gives me rides on the roller coaster. And I actually get to go free based on my friend Zariah making sure that Big C Sports never has to pay for a ticket to Disneyland ever again, which saves a family of 4 about $100 million. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. You got to be able to laugh at a mouse. What's a mouse if he can't laugh at himself? It's all fair in Level War. $100 million for a family of 4 at Disneyland. Just a joke. But it's all fair in Level War. Tonight, I just want to bring forward to you, the New York Yankees also got some action going on in the Big Apple. Speaking of taking a bite out of the Big Apple, the press was going wild over in New York City. The Yankees got Joey Gallo from Texas and Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs, a 3-time All-Star and also first baseman. This good old boy is making some noise in Major League Baseball. The Yankees win. The Yankees win. They're trying to win, but they're hanging on by fingernails, it seems like, over in the Big Apple. Tonight, just bringing to the teams in the American League as the press is going crazy. You can hear the typewriters. Dave, I added the typewriters for you, Dave. The baseball schedule, we just went down that, but in the American League in the East Division, Boston is at the top, followed by Tampa. In the Central Division, you have Chicago at the top, followed by Cleveland. In the West, what a game tonight in San Francisco. You have Houston, followed by Oakland in the West, and they're taking on the San Francisco Giants, the top 2 teams in Major League Baseball. Over in the National League, New York, a little bit of news for Jacob deGrom. He's on the mend because he has a little hitch in his giddy-up in his throwing arm, so they're going to make sure as the press takes care of that in New York City. You can read about that in the New York Times. Also, and they're followed by Philadelphia in the East Division. In the Central Division of the National League, you have Milwaukee still celebrating from the NBA championship. They are being trailed by Cincinnati. WKRP in Cincinnati used to be a TV show back in the day. And also in the West, the best division in Major League Baseball with the San Francisco Giants, best record in baseball, followed by the defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, and they're only followed by the San Diego Padres, Colorado, and Arizona. So that's Major League Baseball for you tonight, and I hope that everybody can just get out to the ballpark and watch what's happening, especially if you get a chance in San Francisco, California, beautiful San Francisco, California, to see the Houston Astros and Dusty Baker coming on back to the house that he built, and the press is going wild for the San Francisco Chronicle as Dusty comes back home. You know, he grew up in Northern California with the Del Capo High School, and that good old boy is doing his thing in Major League Baseball for many, many years. I want to touch on another thing that was going on as the press was very happy to write about it. As the NBA draft last night, the 2021 NBA draft covered with Big C Sports by DC Livers, the founder and CEO of the Black Sports Press. I really appreciate her knowledge and how she's very deep into all the actions around the NBA, coming to you from Barclays Center live on Big C Sports Podcast. You heard it yesterday. I want to pay homage to a lot of men of color, black men, that were part of the new NBA growth. Last year, black coaches led teams that were only, think about it, 74% of players are African American. All that came from Africa. And when you think about it, of the 8 opening head coaching jobs following the regular season, 7 black coaches were hired. Nate McMillan was the first one to hire, and Matt did do a good job leading the Atlanta Hawks when a lot of people thought that maybe he didn't have what it takes, but yeah, he has what it takes. Atlanta would be a good team to come from many years ago with Atlanta Hawks. And then Mbeki is Ime Udoka with the Boston Celtics. That good old boy has a lot of talent to coach in the city of Boston. Hopefully they'll give him a chance. And then you have New Orleans with Jamal mostly Orlando. It's amazing. Willie Green with New Orleans. Chauncey Billups going up to Portland. And hopefully, we don't know what's going to happen with Dollar Dame. He may stay there or he may not stay there. We don't know. But if he's going to stay, obviously they have the great Chauncey Billups, who happens to have an NBA championship experience also. Wes Unseld Jr. with Washington. And so that's great for African Americans in the world of the NBA. And I wish everybody nothing but the best as they are trying to expand the sports coaching universe for black men. It's just a matter of time before more people get the chance to shine. If you can shine your light bright and you make sure that whatever you're doing, you're creating opportunity for other people, that's all everybody's asking for. And sometimes it comes with a lot of pushback and vitriol, but we don't want to have pushback and vitriol. We wish them all nothing but the best. I want to transition to the world of college football. I really love football. There's a song that I've always loved. It's called, by the great DJ Khaled, All We Do Is Win, 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 no matter what. Again, I'm not trying to blow out your speakerphone, anybody. I don't have the pipes of DJ Khaled. But I'm also doing mine without the synthesizers and all the band, the cameo effects behind me. It's all fair and love and war. But I talked earlier on the program today about the expansion of the Power 5 in college football. And what does it mean? I love it. Because if you're not growing, then you're shrinking. Life is about expanding. The universe is always expanding. Big C Sports is always expanding. The sports coverage is always expanding. The payout for sports teams is always expanding. Everything good is expanding. When you eat enough Big C Sports, when you eat enough Big C burgers, your waist will be expanding. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. But rumor has it, your waist can expand if you don't exercise after you eat the Big C burger. It's all fair and love and war. This segment is sponsored by Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, 100% on your game. All fair and love and war. So Big 12, what will they do with their expansion? Losing Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC, just a matter of time. You think about maybe Central Florida. You got Cincinnati. You also have Houston and SMU. Houston and SMU are part of Texas. They should be a part of that. And then you have South Florida maybe coming over, from the American Conference. So the Big 12, they're going to lose Oklahoma and Texas, but they can't sit there and worry about who they lost. You got to go after who you're going to gain. Just like in a relationship, you can't worry about that person who left you when you were in high school, and now she's on with somebody else. And you got to focus on what you're going to do. What did Janet Jackson say? What have you done for me lately? But before that, Shaka Khan said, what you gonna do for me? I kind of feel like I'm embarrassing myself trying to sound like these world-class singers. But hey, it's all fair and love and war. I have no shame in my game. The Big Ten, what will they do? When you think about the Big Ten, there's talk about it if you can believe it or not, and I don't believe it, but you can't believe it if it's out there. The Big Ten talks about maybe trying to dive into the Pac-10, looking at Southern California, Oregon. That doesn't make any sense. If they add the USC Trojans, the Oregon Ducks, the UCLA Bruins, Washington Huskies, Utah, the Utes, or Colorado Buffaloes, these are two conferences that have always met in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, down in Pasadena, usually on New Year's Day. I would hate to see those teams cross paths. The Big Ten's already expanded over to the East Coast. There's no need for Rutgers to be in the Big Ten or Maryland, but they did it for whatever reason, for TV revenue, but it really watered down their conference. I wouldn't want to see the Pac-12 merge with the Big Ten conference. They should be playing conference champion against conference champion. If you are the Pac-12 conference, you are going to have to expand. You have 12 teams now. There was a time you had 10 teams, the Pac-10. You also have the Pac-8. So if the Pac-10 or the Pac-12 expands, you have Boise State, maybe BYU, San Diego State, or nearby options. They have some flaws. San Diego State, they're actually making strides in their facilities, and they are one of the largest cities in the country, and that makes sense. If you think about it, even let's talk about Oklahoma State, Baylor, Texas Tech, and other programs making it stronger for the Pac-12. I would like to see them stay West Coast-centric, but that's just my opinion. I mean, there was a time in NFL football, the San Francisco 49ers part of the NFC West, Carolina and New Orleans were part of the NFC West, and Atlanta. But they got smart and they realized geography doesn't work that way, and they aligned more teams on the West Coast now, from Arizona to Seattle throughout California. All fair and love and war. I want to bring you back to the ACC. Notre Dame, if you're going to expand, go to the Big Ten. You're geographically right there with games against Purdue and also Indiana. You're in South Bend, Indiana. Doesn't make any sense for you to go down and play schools like Clemson or going to teams like North Carolina or Miami. Doesn't make any sense. But, people do what they got to do. Alabama, they've already become the king of the hill with great Nick Saban. It won't always stay that way. Rumor has it the shortage of paper bags, but it's all fair and love and war. I love kidding Alabama. A lot of the kids I know, when I talk to them, say, why'd you leave California for Alabama? A lot of those go say, they said money, man. I mean, do you see the words that are coming out of my mouth? The great Chris Tucker, they went for the money. They didn't go for the education. If you're in the Pac-12 and you want to get an education, only 1% are going to play football in college football from Power 5. You have Cal Berkeley, you have Stanford, you have USC, and UCLA. 4 of the top schools in the country, all in one conference. And then Washington has a good academic program as well as Oregon. So it's about what do you want for yourself outside of getting the risk of CTE. The SEC, with Greg Sankey, is very, very greedy, expanding like the universe is expanding. So will they push for Florida State? That would destabilize the ACC. Will they push for Miami, the Hurricanes? Will they go after North Carolina? The SEC is going to keep growing because they started with Texas and Oklahoma, who are not going to be the marquee programs in that conference. The grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence. It's all fair in love and war. But when people are leaving, they're looking to expand. And expansion is part of life. And no matter what you do in this world, you're either growing or you're shrinking. And I encourage everyone to expand your knowledge. Always expand your knowledge to the highest extent. You got to keep shining. You got to keep rising and shining. And that's what I've always been told by my parents, to keep rising and shining. And when you do that, you have a chance. And rising and shining is a part of what we do in the human spirit. That's why people go from elementary school to high school. That's why people go from high school to college, so they can keep expanding. You got to expand your horizon. That's why we have all of these dating sites out there, so that people can expand their opportunities. Whether it's good or bad, they expand their opportunities by swiping left or swiping right. Be careful what you swipe for, because you might just get it, if that makes sense to you. A lot of good old boys are tired of swiping left or swiping right. There's a rumor, a friend that I know, he ended up swiping left and swiping right, and ended up leaving his family. And, on the third time, it is California, but he did it on the third time, and now he has, 3 alimony. His words, not mine. All fair and level word. Do what makes you happy, as we all try to be happy in the sports universe. As we close out today on Big C Sports Podcast, I really appreciate Dave Brace for coming on, a military veteran, how he actually played in a 10-team league when he was in the military and in Germany. And I appreciate the fact that he came on and shared that knowledge with Big C Sports, because, we're a real program. We're not somebody that's sitting there with a teleprompter. We're not there sitting there with someone writing a script, and some people say, well, that might be obvious. I say speak extemporaneous. Get up and do it. Speak to the mountaintop. Like Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. I do have a dream that Big C Sports is becoming a household name. We've had the Olympics. I've never been to Japan, but we had 2 Olympic champions on the Big C Sports Podcast. We had Disney Corporation. Zariah, I really appreciate you being a part of Big C Sports. Lawrence Thompson came on, part of NBA. Also, we had Claude Poussin makes the movie. Talked about Fred the Hammer, who's in that movie. Everybody. Alan Autry, Heat of the Night, also former NFL football player with the Green Bay Packers. Lee Majors, the $6 million man. So I want to be the $6 billion man. My ark is strong enough. You got to have an ark in life like Noah in the ark that brought across all the livestock. And some of that livestock we use in the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger. It does come with exotic meats. But Noah had the first Big C burger. It's all fair and level war. Who can argue with Noah? So the NFL, we have the Hall of Fame game, and it's just about 6 days away. The Dallas Cowboys will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and everybody loves football. You got to get ready for that football season. It's right around the corner. Big C Sports will be going around the country and then interviewing some coaches and players and talking with their media personnel for NFL football in 2021. I really look forward to that. It's all fair and level war. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, and when I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few more things happening in football. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. As I was saying, my friend, not so fast my friend, but we're running down Big C Sports, the top running backs in the NFL coming up for 2021 season. We're going to close it out today at the top 15. We've already given you #1 touchdown, Derrick Henry for the Tennessee Titans, followed by #2, Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings, followed by #3, Christian McCaffrey, Carolina Panthers, #4, Nick Chubb, the Cleveland Browns, #5, Alvin Kamara, the New Orleans Saints, followed up by the great Aaron Jones, touchdown Aaron Jones, the Green Bay Packers, #7, Saquon Barkley, New York Giants, #8, Chris Carson, Seattle Seahawks, #9, Josh Jacobs, Los Angeles, actually now the Las Vegas Raiders. We finished out with Kareem Hunt, Cleveland Browns. You may say, well, I missed that segment. Well, we did it on today's Friday, closing out the final 15, but we also did the same thing on Thursday and also Wednesdays, all fair and level work. So now we go to number 11 on the list of the best running backs in the NFL for 2021. The LA Chargers at the 50-yard line. Justin Herbert with 5 men through the wideout, and then 4-man front. It's a different formation that we're seeing because they're playing the Raiders and John Gruden. But Herbert turns around, hands off the ball to Austin Eckler. He's running right across the 40, across the 30, across the 20, the 10, 5. Touchdown, Chargers! The Thunderbolts score a touchdown, and the Chargers have taken the lead over the Las Vegas Raiders. It's all fair and level words. The crowd goes nuts. Why Austin Eckler with the LA Chargers? When you think about him, this good old boy, along with McCaffrey and Kamara, other big-name superstars, Eckler's numbers are great. He's also the most, I guess, has the most receiving touchdowns and explosive plays in the NFL last year. He's a player. The Chargers were a good team last year. They just didn't have a good field goal kicker. That's why Anthony Lynn lost his job. Also down in the city of Texas, actually in Arlington, Dak Prescott under center. 4 wideouts, 1 man in the backfield, 5-man front, turns around, hands the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott, running right at the 30, at the 20, at the 10, and then in the end zone. Touchdown, Dallas Cowboys! How about them Cowboys? That good old boy, Ezekiel Elliott out of Ohio State. And some people think that maybe Ezekiel lost a little hitch in his giddy up. I don't think so, but he does take a lot of punishment. This year, Dak Prescott is healthy, even though they held him out of practice today because he had a little hitch in his giddy up, but they want to make sure he's safe. Why Ezekiel Elliott? You don't have to go back very far to find Ezekiel Elliott at the top of the list. I mean, he's one of the best running backs out there, has been since he got into the league. Coming off a tough year in which he had ground out 4 yards per carry, and that's not bad, but the Dallas have their own problems on defense. I think Elliott hasn't looked at his best at times, but still remains a really good running back for the Dallas Cowboys. Doesn't have a lot of flaws. Also, we look to the city up north, the windy city, the Chicago Bears, and you look at their quarterback, Chase, I'm thinking of Justin Fields. Justin Fields comes up to the line of scrimmage, has 3 wideouts, a 5-man front, turns around, hands the ball off to David Montgomery, who's running left at the 30, at the 20, at the 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Bears! Touchdown, Bears. You may hear that a lot with David Montgomery running the football behind that good offensive line. And why David Montgomery making Big C's list on one of the top rushers in the NFL coming up? Montgomery doesn't have a great breakaway speed. In fact, only one 80-yard scamper in 2020 notwithstanding, but he does pretty much everything else well. He averaged 3.1 yards after contact in 2020. He's not Walter Payton, he's not Sweetness, but he is a good running back. I believe Justin Fields. He may not start, but he's going to have that ability to get in there by maybe week 3 or 4, and his running ability will give a more dimension to the Bears' running game, just my opinion. We go to Cincinnati, and hopefully Joe Burrow is back healthy, and he's not on the mend anymore. And the Cincinnati Bengals going to have a good running game, and they'll have to do that. And what we'll have is Burrow up to the line of scrimmage. He has 2 wideouts to the near side, 1 on the far side, 1 man in the backfield, facing a 5-man front, turns around, hands the ball off to Joe Mixon. He's running left, and he's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. He's at the 5. Touchdown, Cincinnati! And the Bengals take the lead. And that's what you may hear a lot, especially when they're playing Cleveland. That's a tough division this year, but Cleveland's going to be kind of the eye of the tiger. Everybody's going to be looking to knock off the Cleveland Browns. So why Joe Mixon? Offensive line so bad that it was horrendous, and Joe Burrow's health was at stake because of it. Also been a major obstacle in the way of Joe Mixon having the kind of a dominant production that his talent might deserve. Mixon's averaged 3.9 yards per carry over the last 2 seasons, but 3 yards have come after contact. That's why he cracks Big C's top 15 of the NFL's best running backs for 2021. And last but not least, the Washington football team. You have a quarterback in Ryan Swaggy Fitzpatrick. He comes up to the line as the press goes wild. He turns around, hands the ball off to Antonio Gibson, running right at the 50. He's at the 40. He's at the 30. He's at the 20. He's at the 10. He's at the 5. Touchdown, Washington! Washington football team. That good a boy can pick him up and lay him down. One of the best running backs in the NFL, Big C's top 15. So why Antonio Gibson? Is still just scratching the surface of how good he can be at the NFL level. He's already finished with a top 5 rushing grade at 85. In his first year at this level, Gibson's an excellent ball carrier. has yet to be fully exploited on offense as a receiving weapon. And given his background playing that position, I think he's going to have a standout year for Washington. Their defense is legit. They have a lot of good players playing for that Washington team. And I know Rivera had his health challenges last year, but he's back in the saddle and he's stronger than ever. And I believe that, like we said, I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. You got to believe that man fought through some health challenges, and because of that, he was able to fly. And he's going to keep flying as the Washington football team will most likely be a team that challenges for, in their division is up for grabs. I still think Dallas is going to come out of the NFC East, but I wouldn't be surprised with that defense that Washington has. They won it last year. Wouldn't be surprised to see them do it again. I want to pay homage to our Olympic champions and pay homage to the NFL medal count coming out of Tokyo, Japan. And so far, the United States has 40 total gold medals. They have 40, like 40, actually 41 total medals and 14 gold medals. That is news because the United States obviously has had some, challenges with players dropping out. Simone Biles, etc., had to have a hitch in her giddy up. And followed by China with 40 total medals, 19 gold. Japan, the host country, 28 medals, 17 gold medals. And then Russia, 34 medals, 10 gold. Australia, 22, 9 gold medals. Great Britain, 24 medals, 6 gold overall when you think about them. Republic of Korea, 14 total medals, 5 gold medals. The Netherlands with 15 total medals, only 3 gold. France with 13 gold medals, actually 13 total medals and 3 gold medals. Germany with 16 overall medals and 3 gold medals, all fair in Leaven War. Italy has 20 overall medals and 2 gold. It's all fair in Leaven War. I love so much what we do with Big C Sports. I love bringing it to you. The only sports show in the universe that does it without a teleprompter. We don't have scripts. We don't go with a producer in our ear. And you might say, well, maybe that kind of explains a lot. It's all fair in Leaven War. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you can't laugh at anybody else. I really appreciate Dave Brace for being on, the founder of Web City Press, also a publisher of his Sports Time Machine, published in San Francisco back in the day. Did a lot of great things in the world of sports. I hope that everybody can have a great weekend. There's a lot of things to be grateful for. If you have your health, if you rise and shine, then you're one of the luckiest people in the history of the universe. It's all about rising and shining. And thanking our first responders as we on the last day of this beautiful month of July, my parents' birthday month. I always want to pay homage to my parents born in the month of July. It is always an arc. Sometimes an arc is right around the month of July also. It's all fair in Leaven War. I want to say to everybody in the sports universe, if you rise and shine, you always have a chance to achieve your goals. I really appreciate it coming with DC Lyris from Brooklyn, the Barclays Center yesterday, the NBA draft. I love Big C Sports. I really appreciate everything that's going on. Wishing some of the quarterbacks in the NFL on the men. Carson Wentz with the Indianapolis Colts, he's on the men, has an injury, and they're going to look at that and see how serious that's going to be. But everybody, whatever you're doing in life, even if you're doing it by yourself, you stand up by yourself, you're born by yourself, you die by yourself, you learn how to walk, you learn how to chew food by yourself, you love whoever you can love as long as you get love back. If you love somebody, tell them. No one who loves anyone should be at odds. Life is supposed to be enjoyable, but you got to know who's on your team. And don't let anyone take off that parachute before you jump out of that plane. I will be your parachute for every sponsor that's paying money to podcast companies all over the world. I've never missed a day from September 12, 2016 to this day. I've never missed a day. You can Google it. I always rise and shine because that's what we're supposed to do. You can rise and shine too every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports Podcast. I want people to do that. And as I always say, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? And as I say, Big C, what are you looking forward to in this sports universe? As my mama always says, you got to rise and shine. You can rise and shine every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to everybody who's listened from the Olympics all the way to the NBA draft, as well as Hollywood. And I really do appreciate that. And as my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports Show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.